probably dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out. See, the police are always off track with this shit. If they watch prom night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Here's Johnny. Groovy.
Yo, what up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you've already been with us before, if you're one of those beautiful subscribers, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Phantom Frequency Network. We break down everything in the world of pop culture, man. As you can tell from the intro, this one and this month in particular is all about that spooky season, baby. It's our first official Halloween horror-focused month here on the channel, man. So make sure you click the subscribe buttons below and you don't miss a single dose of the Phantom Dopeness in your feed every single day, every single week. Whenever we drop stuff, you'll be the first one to know. You know what I'm saying? You're going to know before the other people on the team know. Once we upload the stuff, you're going to know first. So make sure you do that. We're getting into all the horror, spooky, Halloween-focused goodness, y'all. And today is a special one. We're talking about a straight-up classic. I'm talking about the 1987 horror film that revolutionized and completely changed the vampire genre. Directed by the late, great Joel Schumacher, and much love to him and the fam, of course. We're talking about The Lost Boys, man. One of the dopest vampire flicks of all time, if you're asking me. And if you disagree, let me know in the comments how you can have such a crazy opinion. No, I'm just playing. But let me know what you think about this classic, The Lost Boys. I want to hear from y'all in the comments, man. But I'm going to get into all my spoiler-filled thoughts for a 35-year-old movie. So if you're that crazy about spoilers for some odd reason with movies that are older than the people even reviewing it, then I guess you can go ahead and go check it out and come back. But if you don't care about nearly 40-year-old spoilers like most of us reasonable peoples, then thank you for joining us. We're going to get all into this thing, man. Give you a little bit of behind-the-scene tidbits and all that good jazz. But starting off first with my background of this movie in particular. I watched it in high school, man. Just looking up 80s horror movies. Literally. That's all I was doing. I was like, all right, let me look at some iconic 80s horror movies. What have I not seen? Because at the time I hadn't seen a lot of them. So I was like, all right, let me look this up. Let me see what they're talking about. What are all the horror fans talking about? I remember I was actually, and still am, a member of Killer Flicks, a horror community over there on Facebook, started by some really dope horror YouTubers like Drum Dums. I think he's one of the moderators or might have started it, I believe. So shout outs to Drum Dums and Killer Flicks over there. But I got a lot of great recommendations through them and just Googling and stuff. And one way or the other, I found out about The Lost Boys. I was like, okay, what's some good vampire flicks, man? I'm tired of all this Twilight shit. What's some good stuff? And then besides Dracula, you know? And I was like, okay, this Lost Boys, it's got a cool cover. I dig it. It's got that rock vibe, got that 80s vibe. I'm digging it. Got Kiefer Sutherland. All right, I see what's going on here. And that's when I discovered, or not discovered, but one of the first films besides The Goonies where I saw Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. So that really turned me on to those guys as well. Obviously, I'd seen some Joel Schumacher stuff in the past. I'm a kid that went to go see Batman and Robin. So, yeah. Didn't necessarily start with his best work, but I was familiar with his work. He's done some other great films, A Time to Kill, or A View to a Kill, or something like that. Flatliners, I hear, is good. Haven't seen that one, man. But Joel Schumacher has a very diverse filmography over the years, but this one is usually hailed as his best. So I was like, all right, or one of the ones that's hailed as his best. So I was like, okay, time to check this thing out. And from the second this movie started, with the overall vibe, Santa Cruz in the fictional place of Santa Carla in the movie, looks super iconic from Jump Street, has a really dingy, grungy, like just gritty vibe, right? And then you get introduced to the Lost Boys themselves. Kiefer Sutherland over there looking like Billy Idol turned vampire. And everyone else, man. You got Alex Winter from the Bill and Ted series, you know what I mean? And some other, some more low-key actors, man. And from that moment, from the moment the movie starts and you get the crazy sound of the bats, you get the introduction to the Lost Boys, man, I just knew I was in for something special. And this film is definitely something special. And from start to finish, I absolutely loved it, man. It's fan-fucking-tastic. It's creepy. It's sexy. It's got rock music. It's got one of the killer, dopest soundtracks of all time. It's great stuff. And it starts off with People Are Strange. Come on now. I got the Doors hanging on the wall right over there. You know what I mean? So one of my favorite bands all time. So that automatically turned me on to the thing. And just everything from then on, you know what I mean? When they're getting violent, the violence is there, everything of that nature, but it's not gratuitous. They got a really great story between two brothers. One gets turned into a vampire. One doesn't. The younger brother, he's trying to help his bro out, man. You know what I'm saying? Sam trying to help his big brother Michael. And, you know, those are two great actors right there, man, that I definitely want to highlight. Jason Patric is Michael, and then Corey Haim, the late, great Corey Haim, is Sam, both the younger brother there. And those two brothers right there, you really felt their chemistry. You really got all invested in those kids from the Jump Street, and you were like, man, Michael, why did you hang out with those weird-ass biker rocker guys? Why'd you do that? Don't drink stuff you don't know what it is. Come on, man. And he ended up drinking David's blood, apparently, as David gets to later, played by the great Kiefer Sutherland. And we got a whole section dedicated to David, so don't you worry. But for those of you that have seen it, we gonna get into David. But just love everything that Jason Patric and Corey Haim were bringing to their parts, bringing to their roles. Really awesome, younger child. Well, Corey Haim being a child actor. Jason Patric, let me take a look at his age here. Okay, so he was born in 66. He would have been 20 when they were probably filming that in 86. So he was a young man, but could still play a teen. You know, I could probably be in that category if I was an actor myself. So still a young man, you know what I mean? Still a kid, kind of. So they were really great together, and they're dynamic as brothers. You really buy it. They really sell it. And when Jason Patric's character, Michael, really goes through that change of really becoming a vampire slowly but surely, he just does such a great job with the performance of really selling that overall trying to fight the urge to feed, you know what I mean? And then everything going on with that is just so well done, man. And just such a great job. Perfect casting, awesome writing, awesome acting all around there. And then we got to talk about Joel Schumacher, man. The man behind the camera, the method behind the madness. And let me give you guys a little bit of background, some behind the scenes on this one, man. So when it comes to the Lost Boys, it actually was first reimagined in the early mid-'80s when they were writing it as just a Peter Pan reimagining with vampires, I guess. Sounds fucking weird. Still kind of up to see it, though. I just like weird shit like that. But Joel Schumacher got word of it and said, man, this needs something different. Kids don't want to watch Peter Pan in 1986. They don't want to watch that shit. Let me write this up. Let me get the rock culture in. Because that's when rock was at its height. That's when it was where hip-hop is now. It was the king of everything in music right then. It was new wave. Hip-hop was on the rise for sure. You know, Run DMC, NWA, all these great groups, and Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, KRS-One, and all that. You know what I mean? Boogie Down Records. All that was very influential. Public Enemy, obviously. You know, LL Cool J, one of the youngest to ever do it, one of those prodigies, right? But all of that was building throughout the 80s, right? Rock was already there. Had been since the 60s, really. Started in the 50s, becoming that big thing. And from the 60s through the fucking 90s, rock was the shit. It was one of, if not the top dog. You know what I mean? Even went through jazz, country, and R&B and all that. It went past that and just became it. It was the thing. You know what I'm saying? So at the time, Joel Schumacher's like, I'm going to put that kind of culture into this thing. I'm going to rewrite the script, make it about these two brothers, Michael and Sam, and make it about these crazy ragtag group of guys, man, the Lost Boys themselves. And that's where it all came to be. And once he got a chance to rewrite the script, rejigger the idea, and pitch these things to the producer, and they greenlit it, he was off and running from there, wrote the script, rewrote it, they gave him the job, and the rest is history, man. So he really had the vision of what makes the Lost Boys what it is, what makes it so badass, what makes it so unique, and what really makes it stand the test of time as a dope-ass movie in and of its own you know? And that's the great thing that really came with it. And that's why I know a lot of people like to point to Batman and Robin and Batman Forever with his work, but I think people are doing a big disservice to him and to his legacy doing that. In the 80s and 90s, he did a lot of great movies up until that point. And I would say his track record, maybe not flawless, had a lot of great films that were going into it when he was going into Batman and Robin. That's why Batman Forever. That's why they hired the guy. Because he was a proven talent. He had made hits. He had done the thing. Like I said, he's the reason why The Lost Boys became a hit, because he created the vibe and had the vision for it. No one else did, you know? So you got to give the man some credit, you know? And you got to give him his credit where it's due. You know what I'm saying? He just did what they wanted him to do on Batman and Robin. They wanted action figures on the screen. He gave it to them. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, I just feel like you got to definitely dig deeper into people's filmographies, into their work sometimes, you know? Like, I'm going to read through some of his credits right now, leading up to Batman and Robin and afterwards, man. He did St. Elmo's Fire. I haven't seen that. Hear incredibly great things about it. Lost Boys, Flatliners. All those are well-received films with great acting, great actors in their infancy and really went on to become big names. Falling Down, 1993. Let me see. Let me make sure this is the movie I think it is. Michael Douglas. I hear that's a great film. Like, he was pretty much flawless. You know? He actually did A Time to Kill after Batman Forever, so that's interesting. But he did all that stuff before Batman and Robin, so that's why I be saying, man, you got to give Joel Schumacher some credit. Put some respect on that name. He created one of the dopest vampire flicks to this day, and that ain't easy to do 35 years later. So my hat's off to him and his legacy, man. Great stuff. Gotta love Schumacher for creating this thing. And when it comes to creating this thing in one of the biggest one of the biggest elements of this movie that really makes it stand apart and is the reason why it is so iconic is the Billy Idol-inspired character of David, played by the great Kiefer Sutherland, man. The whole look and everything was his idea, because Joel Schumacher saw that he had long hair at the time. And I'm almost mixing up names here. Kiefer, he wanted to bring in this Billy Idol kind of edge to the character, since they were going for that rocker vibe. And for those of you youngins that aren't necessarily as up on game about previous decades of music and things like that, Billy Idol was the guy. Before Billie Eilish, it was Billy Idol. You know what I'm saying? And he was the man. He was one of the biggest things out there. A big hit song of his that you might know is The White Wedding. You know what I'm saying? And he was huge at the time, and he had the big spiky hair look and everything like that. So Kiefer Sutherland wanted to incorporate that into his character's look, but he didn't run it by Schumacher first.
The look had to be right. The clothes had to be right. The hairstyle had to be right. And Joel Schumacher, as a director, was very in touch with rock and roll and music and wanted that to be an aspect of this film, wanted it to have that kind of look. So I think all of us on some level started to try and live out kind of whatever rock and roll fantasy we might have. Joel Schumacher wanted me to have white hair, and I had very long hair at the time, and he wanted me to keep it. And I just looked like a bad wrestler. I looked like a moron. It was awful. And I thought Billy Idol was really cool, and I thought he looked really cool, and I still think he looks really cool. And his hair was all spiky and kind of punk up front. And so I got that haircut, but I left enough at the back so I could tell Joel Schumacher I left it long. Yeah, I think kind of accidentally might have at least been part of a movement that created maybe one of the worst hairstyles of all time, the mullet.
So we cut it and had it short on the sides and everything, but he kept it long in the back and really had that whole mullet look going on. And Schumacher wasn't digging it at first, but once they kind of worked it out and saw it on screen and saw him in the role and in the part, in costume, it all came together, and he saw the vision that Kiefer Sutherland had for it. And I got to say, God bless him for that, because if we didn't get that aspect to the character and that kind of hairstyle going along with his wardrobe and his look, I don't know if David would have been as iconic. I think the hair really does play a big part in that, and I love the whole way that it pulls the style and the whole vibe together. So that was awesome right there. And when it comes to the character of David and Kiefer Sutherland's performance, everyone's praised it before. It's fantastic work, man. He's such a good job of being charismatic, creepy, and intense all at the same time. You are a killer. but just keeping this like grin and this like wit to him and everything like that, where you almost like him, but you know you're not supposed to. You know what I'm saying? And those are the kind of villains and antagonists I love the most in these kind of movies and in horror especially, is the ones you love to hate. You know what I'm saying? And he's definitely no anti-hero, but that's the thing I love about it, man. He just kills every scene he's in. He just chews up the scenery. He just elevates every other actor in the scenes with him. And you can see even that early on just how talented Kiefer Sutherland had been or could be and what he would become. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, he hadn't really been a big lead character in a film like that. He did play the bully in Stand By Me a year earlier in the Rob Reiner film, you know, based off the Stephen King novel and all that. But this was really his first time stepping into the forefront and really being the foil to the hero and really taking a leading role in that sense. So he just really killed it, man, and really solidified himself as a great performer from then on out and made David a damn freaking a bona fide horror icon, man, and I'll say that. You gotta love it, man. I just love every scene he's in. He's just so cool, so badass, but so scary and intimidating at the same time. Like when he's making Michael like see the fucking noodles as worms when they're eating the Chinese food. He's
Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste?
Leave him alone.
Sorry about that. No hard feelings, huh?
the chow mein is like makes him see like crawling worms and shit, and he's like, "Hey, you're eating maggots and shit," and he's like, "Oh, I fucking with him with the vampire powers and all that." I love that, man. Oh man, I gotta tell you, I love me some David, yo. I got distracted by a text right there. I was warning my boy C-Dub about the gore factor of Terrifier 2, and apparently he hasn't tested his gore factor, so you're in for a fucking wild ride, friend. I'm telling you. And by the time this review's out, you probably have already seen it. I hope you kept your lunch, because goddamn, but getting back on track here. Yeah, so love everything with Kiefer Sutherland. Love everything with the Lost Boys. They just look so cool. Such great performances. And even Alex Winter's doing his thing, you know? And I definitely want to give him a little bit of a shout out. He would definitely show his chops and do more things in the future and everything like that. But he was really good in the role, man. I thought he really fit the part and didn't seem weird. Even though it's from Bill and Ted, you wouldn't have put two and two together if you don't really necessarily know or recognize him for that. So I actually kind of like that. And it shows his range as an actor. Because he wasn't being a goofball or being dumb at all in the movie. So I definitely want to give him some props too. And I love the grandpa in the movie too, man. He was so cool. I really liked the grandpa. He was awesome. But yeah, man, let me see. Is there any other actors in here? You know, Edward Herrmann as Max. I thought he did a good job of playing the lead vampire, you know, kind of the villain that's been there from the jump, man. Oh, Jamie Gertz. Definitely wanted to shout her out as Star, the only female vampire up in this thing, I believe. I thought she did a great job, too, at playing, you know, the love interest and everything, and it being cool and playing up, being sexy and all that, without that being the only aspect to her character. And I do think they could have fleshed her out a little bit more, for sure. That's one of the few negatives I'd actually give on the characters in this movie. Just a little more fleshing out would be nice, but it definitely wasn't like she's like a really bad character or they fridged her or did something stupid like that. But I just thought they could have gave Jamie Gertz a little more to do, and I think she could have delivered with the acting chops there as well. But there's no way I'm doing a review or talking anything about the Lost Boys, and I ain't bringing up the motherfucking Frog Brothers, all right? Played by the great Corey Feldman as Edgar Frog and his brother Alan Frog, played by Jameson Newlander, man. And these guys still got chemistry to this day when they do appearances at conventions and things like that. I'm so sad I missed that 25th anniversary they did up in Santa Cruz for Lost Boys on the boardwalk with them performing and stuff. Ah, gosh, I'm so mad at myself for that. But I wish I just knew. I didn't know about it, so how can I be mad at myself? Whatever. But I love those two as the Frog Brothers. They did such a great job at taking themselves so seriously, like they're Rambo or like Tango and Cash or something. But they're just these young, like 12-year-old kids working in comic book shop with their parents, you know, just comic book nerds, really. And I love getting to see that aspect and that pop culture element in this movie so far ahead of its time.
This is just our cover. We're dedicated to a higher purpose. We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Right.
Hey, man. Read this.
I told you, I don't like horror comics.
Think of it more as a survival manual. There's a number on the back.
And pray that you never need to call us.
And I love how Corey Feldman actually got a note from the producers and Schumacher and stuff to go watch Stallone and kind of bring his kind of Rambo, kind of badass, kind of gravel voice vibe to the character. And he definitely did a great job with that. And I love the chemistry that Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander have with each other. They really do feel like brothers, and they really do feel like a tight little unit, you know. And I like how they're the vampire hunters, and they know all the details, and they're trying to warn Sam at the comic book shop, like, hey, you might want to read this. It might just save your life. Like, I love the way he's doing the voice. And he does it in a way where it doesn't, like, you could tell he's putting it on, but he does it with such conviction and he pulls it off so well that it almost seems like that's just his voice. You know what I'm saying? So I love the way that they're doing that. They're so funny and so charming at the same time. And they really actually add a lot of fun elements for the protagonists in this thing. And I think are a big reason that this movie has lasted the test of time and are a big part of its charm. It really just fits in. Great kid actors, man. I gotta say, Corey Feldman definitely is not, you know, killing it in all these crazy movies today, but I just got so much respect and love for him for doing all these great performances at such a young age. And I know he's still got the talent within him, man. And I think if bigger horror filmmakers could get Corey Feldman to get involved with stuff, I think he would do a great job, you know? And I still believe in Corey Feldman's talent, and I think he still has a lot of it. And I just love I love the character of Edgar Frog. Jameson Newlander, I don't want you getting overshadowed either. You did a great job as well, you know what I'm saying? And it was cool to see Corey Haim and Corey Feldman as real-life best friends at one time back in those days. Two teen little heartthrobs coming up in the acting scene. It was cool to see them get to work together too in the horror genre, because they've done other things like License to Drive and other things like that I actually haven't seen yet. But I love their chemistry together as well with Sam. They really all come together as like a tight little unit in it. And I always thought in my own little headcanon, in their timeline as things progressed, those three probably became like super best friends for like the rest of their life, man. And he probably ended up getting a job at the shop, you know what I mean? So I love those characters, man. They're so fun. And there's no way I'm getting through this thing without talking about my main man, Tim Capello, who made the motherfucking dopest song on the soundtrack in this thing. I Still Believe, baby. Saxophone guy. That's what I used to call him. He did such an awesome job performing the thing. He looks like Rob Van Dam picked up a saxophone. It's freaking awesome. And I'm talking about, not Jean-Claude, I'm talking about RVD from the WWE, man. He looks like that dude took more, like, got on steroids or something, and then started playing jazz shows at the beach. It's freaking awesome. Love the scene. It's so funny, and I love how even little scenes like that have become iconic in their own right. But the song is fucking dope. I was listening to that before I went while I was setting up for this recording. Love the track. Dope stuff if you haven't heard the Lost Boys soundtrack. And that's another thing I'm going to praise about this goddamn movie. This soundtrack is one of the best of all time, baby. It was one of those innovators in the game at being a movie that was really heavily reliant on the soundtrack marketing the movie. You know what I'm saying? So I love how they put all that together. This movie was just so ahead of its time without even trying to be. It's not like this overly ambitious story or like this crazy mindfuck of a plot. You know what I mean? It's just a straightforward vampire tale, but just mixing it in with all this rock culture and 80s vibe that was just new for the time and definitely feels fresh. And just for some reason, the elements that all came together, it keeps it fresh to this day. So I love all of that stuff, man. And all the vampire, death scenes and everything like that, and all the vampire violence is so well done, but not overly gory, but gory enough to be effective. And like the one scene where they're playing freaking the Run DMC Aerosmith crossover track, Walk This Way, when they're like, hey, Michael, come over here, and they're all sitting in the trees and shit looking at these dudes partying at the beach. And apparently, this is actually the cut. This scene actually goes like to straight Terrifier levels, apparently, but we didn't get to see it. But they go in there and start fucking up these dudes, and then Michael's over there trying to like hold himself back from going full vamp on these fools. But Michael and them are ripping arms off and throwing dudes into the freaking fire that they're using for the bonfire. And then apparently you can see a really, really, really quick frame of it, because I just noticed it this last time, and I was watching this interview with Kiefer Sutherland going over his most iconic roles, right? And he was talking about David, obviously, Lost Boys being one of his first ones. And he was saying that there was a scene that was cut out where he ripped the freaking scalp off of this dude, like off the top of his head or some shit, right? Where you could see like his freaking brains and shit, like a Terrifier 2 over here. And he starts like drinking the blood out of there and shit. And I'm like, whoa, what? But there's a really, really quick frame of him ripping the dude's head. Like, you could quickly see it, dude. And I noticed it the last few times I saw it, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. But I didn't really pay as close of attention till this time. And I was like, wait a second, holy shit, was that what I thought it was? Because I thought he was like going for it, but they didn't really show it. When I really paid attention this time, it's real quick. Like, you just see his head start to tear, but then they cut away from it because it was apparently too violent. And honestly, it probably would have been a bit much. But, you know me, I'm a horror guy. I'd have been open to seeing it, but it probably would have probably disgusted me. But it would have been crazy and ballsy, and I just love when horror goes there, you know, just for the fact of just sticking it to the man, you know what I'm saying? So I just like that stuff, you know what I'm saying? I like pushing the envelope, you know what I mean? So that was freaking crazy and all that. But I like how it's not just, you know, super gore heavy, but when they go there, they fucking go there. You know, and they play into the sexy vibe of vampires and all that, and the sex appeal of David and Michael and Star, especially. You know, Jamie Gertz, beautiful woman. So they were playing into all that, and that definitely became such a heavy influence in the new millennium with, you know, Vampire Diaries, True Blood, you know, obviously Twilight. So it's definitely cool to see that big-ass influence that this movie has on the vampire subgenre and the way that it carried into the new millennium in such a powerful way. And I remember when all that was playing out. So it was kind of cool to see. I was there for all the stuff it influenced and got to go back in retrospect and check it out. So everything coming full circle. But yeah, this movie's fucking incredible, man. I mean, that's the only negative I have. I think they could have gave Star a little more character development. That's about it. I love this fucking movie. It is phenomenal. If you have not seen this movie, you need to do it immediately. It is fucking awesome. I believe it's streaming on Tubi for free, Tubi, whatever it's called. It's on there for free if you don't want to go out and get the Blu-ray or DVD or whatnot. If you don't have a friend that's going to let you borrow it, check it out on Tubi. It's a kick-ass movie, and if you love vampire movies, this is definitely up your alley. Unless you only like the Twilight vibe without the violence and the badassery, then this might not be for you. But come on, man. You got to see one of the most iconic vampires of all time in David. And you got to party with my man, Tim Capello. You got to jam that. So make sure you tune in and check this out. And I want to know from all of you out there that have seen The Lost Boys, drop your thoughts down below. Do you love it, hate it, fall somewhere in between? I want to hear from y'all. Give me your top 5 vampire flicks all time. I want to get that too. Drop that in the comments. We love and appreciate each and every one of you subscribers, y'all. We want to make sure you know that first and foremost. So be a part of the Fandom Frequency community today and get in on that and get your requested review in. Next 5 subscribers, we'll do whatever review you want as soon as we can, man. So make sure you're tuning into all the other spooky, creepy content we got going on and on this channel all month long for all you new watchers. Make sure you stay subscribed, man. And for you people that have already been those diehard day ones, we love you and appreciate you equally. And make sure you're tuning in for all the great content. We got our TV recaps going for all the big TV shows each and every week. Make sure you tune in for those. And if you want to know more details, follow us on all the socials and all that. It's all in the description below. But until next time, guys, stay tuned. Don't sleep. Trick or treat. This is Halloween, y'all. Peace.